Hello there. Welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I'm working in my art journal, so get comfy and let's get crafty. This is my 8x8-inch square art journal that I purchased specifically for working with Stamperia pattern papers. I love Stamperia papers. They make beautiful everything. I'm going to make an art journal page using this Sea Dream collection, and I also have the ephemera, the chipboard ephemera that goes with it. So I've selected 2 pieces of paper from this paper pad. I'm going to be cutting out this frame and placing it on this blue background. I do need to trim the background page down just a little bit because my book is 8x8 and this is an 8x8 pad, but that does not take into account the coils at the top of the book. So I'm going to trim this down so that it is like 7 3/4 by 7 3/4. And I'm going to create the page entirely on this blue background, and then I'm going to put it into my art journal. The first thing I'm going to do in super fast speed is ink up the edges of this pattern paper with my potting soil, archival ink, and a foam blending tool. This is just to cover up the edges that I cut off. And then I'm going to fussy cut out this frame. I did not make you watch that. I did contemplate also cutting out the inside, but I opted to leave the inside alone. I felt like it gave it a break from that solid or mostly solid blue background. So once I have this finished and it's all fussy cut out, I was pleased with myself. I did not get too super picky or too precious about all of the little things. There was a lot of foliage I cut off of this frame. I'm going to add some of it back by using this Honeybee Stamps, what's it called? Lovely Layers Greenery die set and some faux watercolor paper or watercolor pattern paper from my stash. Once I have all of that greenery cut out, I can start to assemble my page. And the first step in that is to, of course, add some archival ink to the edges of this frame, again, to kind of hide the fact that I fussy cut it. This kind of hides those parts where maybe you didn't cut it perfect or I didn't cut it perfectly. Now I have this turtle, sea turtle, chipboard ephemera, and I want to put it down there on the bottom, and I want that front right fin to slide behind the frame, but I'm a little concerned because it is a thicker chipboard, so I'm going to have to come up with a plan. And the plan I came up with was to take my little Fisker's finger knife thingy. I have more control with this. Still not great at using this to cut with, but it's better than the other alternatives for me. And I'm going to cut right along the bottom of that frame and up around the leaves and the petals of that flower. And I'm going to do it a little at a time and then stick the fin of the turtle in and see if I need to cut more. I did put down a different self-healing mat that I've already ruined. Well, and by I've already ruined, I mean my kids and nail polish remover have already ruined. That way I'm not cutting into the surface I'm working on. I also did a little bit of a cut at that top right curve of that frame, just so that I can add something else under there to kind of balance the pieces of ephemera. So the fin fits through just fine, but I need to go up around the petal and the leaf a little bit more. So I'm going to pull my finger knife out and go back at that. It is a very tedious isn't the right word because it makes it sound like I don't like it. It is a very slow part of the creation of this art journal page. But in order to get the results I want, it has to be done. And I can either do it fast or I can do it right. I'm going to take a little bit of that potting soil archival ink, wow, words are hard, and go around my turtle. And that also helps the turtle stand out against the background paper behind that frame. I felt like it needed to be just a little bit emphasized, or I don't know what the right word is, because I didn't study art. So now I need to figure out where I'm going to put all this greenery. And they're very long, they're very large, and so at some point I decided, yeah, I should cut these down. They'll fit a little bit better. I can use both pieces if I cut them in half, and then I have a little more bang for my buck. So I have done that. I've cut a couple of the greenery sections in half, and I'm just fidgeting and fiddling and deciding what I want where and why. And once I have that decision made, it is time to figure out the next plan. And to be honest, I didn't know what the next plan was. There's no instructions, there's no plan. There is me in this pattern paper and my art journal. I had the brilliant idea for a minute and a half to go around the greenery with the brown potting soil ink as well. Oh my heavens, they are so delicate. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. But once I started, I could not stop, so I just kept adding ink to not every. These were cut from a white core pattern paper, but it is meant to look like watercolor, like a watercolor background. So having some of the white show isn't, it kind of goes with the rest of the paper. So it's no biggie as far as the greenery is concerned. But yeah, it was a little finicky and it took me a hot minute. Oh, and I bent some leaves and I bent some stems, but it's all good because it's paper. All right, it's time to assemble. And I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to have this frame lay flat when that turtle's fin is so dimensional. And of course, you know what came next. Foam tape, right? I have my 3M foam tape somewhere on my desk. And I'm going to put foam tape all over the back of this frame. I'm not going to go side to side, top to bottom. And I am avoiding the slits where I cut for the greenery and the turtle. And I decided not to take the backing off yet, but to go ahead and put my page together first so I knew what I was doing before I stuck this down, because there is no forgiveness in this foam tape. It tears. I do want to add a little bit more texture to this paper, if you can believe that. I have, this is Cornflower Blue Archival ink, and I'm using the Stamperia stamp set. It's a Tim Holtz Stamperia, or not Stamperia, Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous stamp set. I'm using the text stamp, and I'm going to take this blue ink and this text stamp and make a whole column of blue inked text. Now, you can't see it. I mean, on the video, you probably cannot see it. In real life, I can see it, and it is like the perfect color of blue for background texture on this page. I was so excited. I was a little concerned it would be not quite the right hue, but it was perfect. Then I decided to add one more up in the top left-hand corner just because, you know, good enough wasn't enough. And then I'm going to add some splatters. This is a Distress Oxide spray ink. And instead of spraying it, I'm just flicking it off the end of the straw. I don't know if it's an oxide or a regular Distress spray ink. I don't know. It was brown. I grabbed it. That was literally, it was the first brown one that came out of my drawer. And I just put a few splatters on, and then I walked away and let it dry. In fact, I think I fed my kids dinner. But it still needed a little more brown in the background. So I grabbed that potting soil ink and a stamp that looks like a coffee ring where you sit your coffee cup down. I don't know what you call those. I'm not a coffee drinker. Like, oh goodness, we don't need me on caffeine. That would not be good. But I'm trying to create a cluster that looks a little bit more intentional. Like I picked my cup up a number of times and sat it back down, right? Because if I drank coffee, I'm sure it would dribble all down the side. I don't know. And then that same stamp set has some little dots. And I'm just going to, they kind of mimic the splats from the Distress ink, or the Distress spray rather. But I get to be a little bit more intentional about where I add them. Now, are they visible? Well, a lot of that stuff is not visible. But it makes me feel like I did something pretty, and I like the end result. So now we're going to go ahead and pop the release paper off that foam tape, and we're going to set this down right in the middle of my art journal page. And I pushed it down. It's there. There's no coming back now. I'm going to add the turtle with Tumble Mono Multi Glue. That's what it's called, liquid adhesive. This is just a regular old white glue. It does dry clear, so if some squirts out or squeezes out, I don't have to worry about it. And I'm going to very delicately lift up the edge of that frame and slide my turtle fin under the frame and nestle that turtle's head right into the bloom of that flower. Then I'm going to hold it in place for a minute to make sure that it adheres. And then it's time to start putting the foliage all back in. And you know what I didn't do? Pay attention to where I had it in the first place. it would be so easy for me to reach over to my left-hand side, grab my phone where it's plugged in when I'm working at my desk, and take a picture of how I had it. But I don't do that, like ever. You will see when I'm creating a card or an art journal page, I'll put things down, and the finished product doesn't look the same because it never occurs to me when I am crafting in the minute to take a picture of my decisions. And that's just a decision. Decisions were made, things were done, events happened, we moved on. And I am just adding some of these green foliage pieces anywhere and everywhere. So I have a few more pieces of ephemera from this collection. This blue flower, I contemplated putting it right there on top of that blue flower, but it just was a lot of blue and I didn't love it. I also have 3 little starfish down here that I think I want to put down in the bottom right next to the turtle, but it's starting to feel a little bottom heavy, so I'm uncertain about that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the starfish. I'm still struggling with the starfish. I did find a white flower that was almost the same size as that blue one, and that kind of broke up the blue a little bit. So I am going to take this piece of greenery that I have left. I'm going to cut it into 2 or 3 different pieces, and I'm going to lay the greenery down and put the flower on top of it and see how I like that. I'm just trying to break it up a little bit. I don't hate that the page is all blue, but I did feel like it needed a little something, something, and green is always my something, something. I'm just saying I like the greens. And I do like how that is looking. I did need to, I cut this into 3 or 4 pieces, this one little piece of greenery, just to get some leaves behind that flower to kind of cover up the fact that the one behind it is slightly larger than it. So now that I think I like what I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and glue this flower down just in the center so that I can still stick. That's hard with braces. Still stick the greenery behind it without popping it off the page. And again, that is not where that leaf was when I started. No, it was not. But really the point of cutting it up was to see if I liked how it looked. And the first thing on my desk that was pointy was my scissors. So I'm using my scissors to hold down all the little pieces, like that one I totally pulled apart. Using my scissors instead of my fingers in hopes that it won't keep sticking to my fingers because I have glue all over me. I contemplated cutting this one down, and guess what? It won. I cut it. I told you, I cut that poor piece of that leaf stem down into a dozen little pieces. But it looks good. I like how it looks. I'm looking at it in real life, and it definitely added a little bit of something to the page. Broke up that blue background just a little bit and added some more detail, which of course I like, right? It's all about the detail. Did take me a minute to get this last piece in how I thought I wanted it. It kept flopping over that flower. In the end, I just glued it down. Now I'm back to these starfish. And even with the flowers and the greenery on top, they still are making the page seem bottom heavy. So I didn't use them. I just put them away. I will use them on another page at another time in the future. The front cover of this pad of paper has a whole bunch of different little ocean and sea sayings. So I'm cutting this little ocean sign, or looks like a palette sign out of the front cover. I'm going to ink around the edges of that to kind of clean it up a little bit and age it a little bit. And then I will be adding this to my page. I thought about the left and then I decided the right. I feel like that kind of creates that visual triangle with the greenery in the top left, the greenery, and the sign in the top right, and the turtle at the bottom. Kind of makes that triangle that our brain likes to see. Unless your brain is crazy like mine, then it likes to look at all the things all the time. But I added some liquid glue to the back of that little sign, and now it's time to put it into my art journal. I'm going to grab my Yoo-Hoo art journal glue stick. I do like these. They are super gluey sticky and the lid screws on so I can't dry them out. And I'm going to just put a bunch of glue on the back of the page. Then I'm going to stick this right into my art journal. This particular art journal has a lot of pages that I will probably never get around to using. I'll have to take some out. Originally, I was gluing two together to make them a little thicker, but that just seems to be making them wrinkle a little bit. So I probably will just take some out when all is said and done. I am going to sign and date it. I'm going to write my name, Jennie, and sign it in July. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so that you can see that little turtle and the little sign. And thank you. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching the video. I really do appreciate all of the time you come and spend with me. I have a couple other videos here I think you would like. I also have a subscribe button. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you think about my turtle. I hope you have a really fabulous, fabulous day.